just imagine that there is music, music, music. 4, 3. What? You're messing up my...
Why are you counting down? You already said music, music, music. You don't count
but
down
now
after
I'm giving
music,
everybody
music,
a chance.
Music, music, music is the countdown.
Yeah, but okay. Hello, and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we are back with the 2021 film Godzilla vs. Kong. This is Castle of Horror, episode 330. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about a brand new movie we all saw within 24 hours. We're going to be discussing it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead from Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castlebridge Media. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. He is a Best Writer Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle Best of Austin Award winner, and a member of the PEN America Fellowship. Say hello, Drew.
Henceforth known as Wolf Dentures.
Wolf Dentures. Old man Wolf Teeth. And finally, also in Denver, color commentary from Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Godzilla vs. Kong is a 2021 kaiju film. That is the best way that I can put it. It is the latest in the legendary Godzilla series that started with Godzilla back in like 2014, I guess it was, and has taken us through to here with Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters, and now here we're going to be talking about all of the cast and everybody who's involved. But let's get into it. I want to get opening thoughts from, let's go, Tony. I think of you as the largest Godzilla fan. So let's go, Tony, Julia, Drew. I know that you're almost as big a Godzilla fan.
It's not Tony, a contest, Jason.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. All right. So we'll go Tony, Julia, Drew, and then I'll go. I don't know where to start. This is such a big film. So Tony, opening thoughts. Godzilla versus Kong.
So I got to see this finally on our projector that has been one of the best investments of the pandemic, not being able to go into theaters. And it's also a little weird because I kind of wish I liked it more than I do. And that's also weird because technically I'm a Warner employee of sorts through Rooster Teeth. So I wish I enjoyed this more, especially since it's a tentpole of the company I work for. I don't know. I like the monster battles. I thought that was really well done. There's a lot of good bits, but the more I thought about it today, the less I was rah about it. And kind of even last night, I got through with it and was just kind of went, well, I liked a lot of parts of it. But and reactions seem to be mixed. Again, I'm not one to just rail on a movie, so I'll mostly be talking about the parts I did like. But it looked really good, and the monster fights were pretty awesome. It seemed to me more like in general, it was kind of weird. There's also a lot of great homages to different bits. If you are a fan, there's a lot of cool stuff that they did the thing. That's really cool.
Can you give me for instance? I know we'll get through, but like, what's the thing where it's like an Easter egg?
A couple things. Like one is, they're lifting Kong and it's not balloons, it's helicopters. Yeah. Again, all of this, if you're listening, like seriously, we're going to spoil the hell out of this. So don't watch the movie first. Yeah. Really, seriously. If you can see it in a theater, it probably is worth seeing in a theater, though. I know I have several friends now who actually are fully vaxxed and they got to see it. And I'm a little envious that that's what they got to do. Mm-hmm. Or a couple people who will be fully ready to go in a week or two and they're going to go see it in IMAX. And like I said, I'm a little envious of that. But like the Kong being lifted, the heart part is kind of like the Kong movie where he gets a fake, he gets a gigantic Jarvik 7. Also, him getting powers from electricity. So that was
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of
no
really
kidding.
cool bits. I think I want to save some of them for later, but
Yes, of course. Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of there's cool stuff, but the sum of it didn't gel for me as much as I wanted to, and I think maybe that's my problem. Is maybe my expectations were a little high as far as what I really wanted, because we've been covering we covered all this all this Godzilla stuff before, and then we saw Mothra, and that was really cool to see again. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think that's a good place to start. Julia, I don't know what your expectations were coming into this, but what are your opening thoughts?
Based on the trailers, I think my expectations were pretty close to what actually we got, which is a really fantastic looking film. And by the way, Jason, I did just find the picture that Tony made for me, or the inspirational poster that Tony made for me of floating
Nice.
Godzilla with "You can do anything if you just believe." Oh yeah, I'm totally doing that.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic looking film. I think the effects are amazing, really amazing battles. If that's what you're looking for, which I think many people are, then you're gonna love it. If you're looking for, character development or plot that makes sense, maybe not as much. But I really enjoyed watching it. I thought I didn't fall asleep, which is saying a lot on a weeknight for me. And I thought it was just a really fun ride. I think there's some really familiar tropes and themes. Corporation bad, technology will never work out the way we think it will. It will, in fact, bite us in the ass. Stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'm excited to talk about it. I think it's a really, really fun movie.
Wonderful. Thank you. Drew, what about you?
I think I definitely enjoyed it more than Tony. And one of the benefits of the era that we're at is I own all of these MonsterVerse movies on Blu-ray, so I was able to go back and watch them all and get the context for it. And it's weird seeing how like the 2014 Godzilla is this almost like Christopher Nolan-esque, very trying to be like the quote-unquote grounded version of Godzilla. And somewhere along the lines, we've gotten to this, which is we're not in the real world at all anymore.
Right.
Like this is Jules Verne on Toho steroids, and that's kind of crazy when you watch all of these movies in the course of a week. It is predictable, like pretty much spoilers, this movie has Mechagodzilla in it. Pretty much from the moment that I learned that Mechagodzilla was going to also be in this movie, I more or less guessed how all the fights were going to go down. That being said, the fights are still very worthwhile. Like this probably has the best monster battles of any of these legendary Godzilla movies, and they're all very visible. They took a note from Skull Island, and they're all well lit. You can see what's going on, and I think that the choreography is great. I think it's a much better King Kong movie than a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, I'm with you. I felt like at the end it was a Kong movie.
Yeah, it's totally much more. King Kong is the star of this movie, and I'm fine. I am a fan of both monsters. I have Godzilla tattooed on me, but I love King Kong as well, and I think Kong is very charismatic in this movie, and I hope that we're able to maybe get another movie out of this version of Kong, because he's really fun to watch. Godzilla was the heel in this movie, and I actually always think Godzilla probably works a little better as the heel. Like I really like this version of Godzilla because he reminds me of like an old alligator. How they kind of get like big and jolly when they're old. It's also kind of interesting that like this is the movie that is saving the movie business, which is strange. Like I never in a million years that I have predicted that. Because I talk about monster movies with people, and a lot of the times they're ambivalent, and especially when you see how critics like I've been really annoyed with the way critics are reviewing this, even in positive reviews, because like they're kind of dinging it for stuff that they like slathered praise on the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Really?
Or like because they're both silly in kind of similar ways, but for some reason it's okay if everything is in sepia tone.
Can you give me another example of that? Because I have not read any.
They're talking about like the way like people are saying stuff that like, oh, I don't like it when someone says something like Kong will bow down to no one in a very serious way, but I'm like, but it's okay when like,
right,
you know, Batman says something in like a gravelly
give me
voice.
a break on that.
Like, yeah,
I'm with you totally. That it doesn't, just because it's in a serious movie doesn't make it any less cheesy, trust me, because I've seen both.
Think it's okay
to
just say like some movies aren't taking place in the world that we live in, so maybe speaking in a more operatic kind of way is the way characters speak. Anyway, I could ramble on. There's a lot to talk about. I think that this is a cool movie. I enjoyed it. Watched it twice for what it's worth.
Wow, fabulous. That's fabulous. The I really liked what you said about, and I want to get back to it, that thing about people's expectations, and also, we are victims in our society, and this is just the way life works, but we're definitely victims of what the culture is telling us we should like or not like. The culture decided by the time the Snyder Cut came out that everybody was going to like it. And in the Twitterverse, in the sort of cultural zeitgeist, it was because everybody's upset with Joss Whedon. So everything, all the jokes and jokiness of the old version, we don't like that anymore. And now we're back to, the super serious. Fine, whatever. But this is a goofy movie. My opening thoughts are just, I had no expectations going into this. None. In fact, I was so distracted with other stuff and whatever I was watching. The movie I watched before this was Educating Rita, which is an early 1980s British movie about a working class woman who wants to take English courses out of college. So, and I was like, and here's a giant monster movie. So I had no expectations. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't give it any thought whatsoever as far as the things that people are poking at. I'm not saying that they're wrong to say the science in this movie is questionable. I'm saying it never dawned on me.
You're saying that science is real and perfect.
I'm saying it never dawned on me to give a shit whether the science made any sense.
Well, if these animals were real, they would be crushed under their own weight. So you're already going in accepting that. Yeah,
they're in another universe with different physics but what I keep thinking about is, remember the guys who live under the ground and worship King Caesar in whichever Godzilla movie that was?
I think are you talking about the Cetopians who worship Megalon?
Yes, right. Yeah. And okay, they worship Megalon. Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. And
but there are people who worship King Caesar, but they're not. Yeah, but the Cetopians.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the guy with
Tony
the
and I
mustache.
are just going to tag team you on Godzilla stuff all night.
No, I'm just
not
saying, wrong, because
those sandal dudes in their togas and their headbands and stuff. Right. That's sort of
right.
I'm ready for that. So when I get to this, which is more like it's more believed than that, I'm fine. Whatever. I mean, there's a Middle Earth, and it has double gravities.
Hollow Earth, not
Hollow Earth. I didn't see any hobbits. I don't know that Kong fought Smog, although that would be pretty cool.
Kong should fight Smog.
In a hole in the ground that has led to fire from Antarctica.
So yeah, I mean, I'm fine, but the movie goes from one place to the next. In fact, the only place where I was like, well, I'm going to get up and make a sandwich is anytime the humans showed up. Like anytime, and we'll get to it. But I had zero time for any of the plots involving flesh and blood human beings. Not.
Yeah, it's like monster porn. Like you're just kind of like, okay, yeah. Let's get to the next action.
Let's get to the next scene.
That was True Blood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but again, remember Megalon? Like in that one, Although I actually would have been so happy. I did kind of like the scientist and the mute girl. I like them.
See,
just like
I would break this down across, because this is, Tony was saying this when we were pre-gaming this in chat earlier, so I'm not going to take credit for this thought, but he's absolutely right. Is that you have basically a Godzilla movie and a Kong movie, and they're kind of happening side by side.
Okay, can you give me that thesis? Explain that to me. I'm done with my opening thoughts.
Over to Tony because he was the one who had
the
thought originally.
Tony, give me the thesis of the two films.
I was just going to say that I found the humans and the Kong story way more interesting, especially the little girl.
Yeah, I like the little girl. She's great.
I like the girl and the mom. I found most other characters to be insipid, and I didn't care at all. I find almost everyone to be severely annoying, and I didn't want to see them on screen very often. Not knocking the actors, just how the story played out. I don't know, something about it bugged me. But no, it felt like there was a really cool adventure Kong movie where they go to the Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And then there's a Godzilla part where they fight. And that was it felt like they wanted to make two movies. And what we got was 3/4 of a Kong movie that would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
And another sort of Godzilla movie where Godzilla is evil and hates technology that people are building. And then they kind of shoved that together, and you got to me, not as effective Kong movie, which could have been cool, and not much Godzilla movie until they're fighting, and that's fine. And again, a lot of people leveled that, we don't get enough Godzilla against previous Godzilla movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I've stated several times, most Toho Godzilla movies only have about 15 minutes of Godzilla in them. Maybe 20. I think the max was fair. Close to 30. So I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that the way everything moves along, you've got a kind of cool Kong movie that, wants to have its own thing. Even Rain pointed out, she's like, wow, this is, I was so happy. I was so happy, by the way, with Rain, because I said, are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla? And she just looked at me and goes, this is a Godzilla household. What are you talking about?
Yes.
I love I married the right person.
Were you sad that Godzilla was the heel in this movie? Typically,
I don't know. Sad because there's times where he's supposed to be just a force of nature, and it made sense that he's the king. I gotta keep my throne. That all made sense. I'm not knocking that per se,
and I don't.
But the way it plays out is this like even Rain, like I said, was going, hey, I expected this monster battle, but now I feel really sad for Kong because all this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel later on. It makes sense, but the more I dissected it in my head, as I'm apt to do, I think this could have been a sequel to Skull Island, and then we get the Godzilla versus Kong movie, and they both would have been pretty good. But by the end of this one, I was like, well, I don't know. I guess I got a Kong movie.
I think that Godzilla is redeemed a little bit by by the theory that I've heard being tossed around, that he's just reacting to Mechagodzilla being kind of turned on and all these Apex releases. Apparently, and various Apex
he's reacting to the Ghidorah skull, which is
exactly
a cool idea.
But again, that homage with the skull, Mechagodzilla in the later ones has Godzilla bones, Godzilla DNA in him. Well, so that was also a neat homage. Like, oh, okay.
Yes, it was.
Because I actually dealt with that the death battle that I co-directed.
I don't think any of those criticisms are necessarily wrong, because I will say this: as much as I enjoyed the stuff that this movie does well, it does very well, which is like the fight scenes and the effects and the way it looks and everything.
It looks beautiful.
I will say this, though. I do feel like there was a lot on the cutting room floor, especially from the Godzilla plot of this movie, because you have stuff that's thrown out. For example, the guy that's the Mechagodzilla pilot, his name is Serizawa. That's obviously, first of all, that's a, homage to the original Godzilla film, of course.
A connection? Obviously he's got to be related.
He's Ken Watanabe's, apparently Ken Watanabe's character's son, but this is never brought up. It's never brought up. and that's a pretty, like there's a point during the Florida attack where he's just like glaring at Godzilla with like this like intensity, and I'm sure that character probably had an arc. That's somewhere on the.
I agree,
because it seemed like there was like a lot of people were like, okay, we got to get this under 2 hours. And me personally, I know there was a lot of people that were happy about that, and I get why. But me personally, I would have preferred to have some of those details back in. Like, there's another thing, like more character development.
Well, and also he's pretty famous in Japan, so I'm sure the Japanese would have liked to have seen more of him as well.
Well,
I mean, maybe we'll get like truly, maybe we'll get like a 6-hour cut of this in like a year.
6-hour one. I'm just saying, like, maybe an extra 20 minutes.
But I would, what you could get rid of. I hate to say this, but there's a whole plot, and the Godzilla part of this plot that begins. We have Brian Tyree Henry, who plays a podcaster who is obsessed with Monarch and Apex, Millie Bobby Brown, and her good friend, her friend that's from New Zealand, but that's also never addressed. Yeah, Julian Dennison. Those three actors,
although the accent's pretty
in their own plot where they are trying to find out secret information about what the bad guys in Apex are up to.
And I know, I think Drew, I think you're the one who said something about like maybe this conspiracy, or one of you guys was maybe this conspiracy theory plot.
I don't necessarily, after everything we've gone through for the last 5 years, really want to watch a conspiracy theorist as a hero anymore. Like, I just expected, like, Jamie and I did a rewatch of the X-Files a while back, and I was even having a hard time with that because anytime I see a character like that, this guy's funny, okay? Like, I'm not knocking the actor. He's actually,
I mean, is he?
I thought he was.
I actually found that all of these scenes just dragged. I thought he was funny. But I also just kept expecting him to start talking about Q or the storm or something, and it just like, I wish that they would not. And honestly, to your point, Jason, I don't actually think you needed all this I know they wanted to have Mechagodzilla in this movie, and I get that, but like, I don't think you needed any of that stuff to have Kong and Godzilla fight, because there's already this stuff like, their species has an instinctive dislike of each other. There can be only one
there.
But I liked that Mechagodzilla brought them together at the end, because otherwise you'd have some really unhappy people for whoever was on the team that lost.
But I want to get back to this question of the humans real quick.
Yeah, but that's monster wrestling. I mean, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be unhappy regardless.
I like that they don't fight to the death, but I want to key into something that Drew said there that I thought was super interesting. I have totally dug going back and looking at X-Files and seeing all of the sort of what conspiracy theory looked like at that period. And I think it works in that time.
I noped out of the new series when they brought it back, and it was all like, maybe Alex Jones isn't so bad.
Yeah, that was like weird.
And the problem is 2 episodes and I was out, man. And that was back then.
The shtick of the X-Files was every crazy idea that ever, and this was what it always was every crazy idea there ever was turns out is true. That's only funny if you feel pretty darn confident that the people who think that way are outvoted by the people who, in the end, really believe that fluoride is not about mind control. I think it's even, I have to admit to you, I was a little offended and troubled that in a movie that everybody in this country is going to watch, they had a guy, without anybody doubting him, say fluoride is about mind control. That really grossed me out. I mean, and also, I just had to point out, all of his shtick is not funny. The fumbling, I
thought he was funny. I think that's subjective.
I thought everything just drags to a halt. I thought
that's subjective.
Jerry Lewis's middle-aged comedies from the early 80s that I can barely sit through were funnier than this guy. And I just thought this was
Jason, again, that's subjective though. Humor is highly subjective.
That's true. Yes. Anyway,
like, you don't think Evil Dead 2 is funny, and a lot of people think that movie is funny.
It's a good point. Yes. Yeah. Although there are bits of Evil Dead 2 I think are super funny. I like the I'm going to get you sucker business in Evil Dead 2 with all the sort of the like loving camera work over the weaponry and blah blah blah. I thought that was
Not to turn this into a conversation about Evil Dead 2.
No. Or well, it's actually a conversation about me and having a sense of humor. which
I don't think that it's not that you don't have a sense of humor. I think it's subjective. I think everybody's sense of humor is like, I've talked a lot on this show about how I cringe and grind my teeth through most sitcoms. Like, I just can't handle them. I don't think they're funny. I actually find them terrifying.
That's interesting.
And like but I can watch like a Marx Brothers movie and I'm fine. It's subjective.
So this is anyway, but that's interesting, right? So anyway, they're taking a big bet, right? The director here is taking a gamble that the way he's going to set the tone, because you said yourself the tone of that 2000 the first Godzilla movie, which I believe was 2014. Is that right? And I apologize if I've gotten that wrong.
Yes, correct.
Anyway,
yeah.
The tone of that was super dark, right? You know, down to the point where they were playing opera while people halo jumped down Godzilla's body. And we are so far from that universe. And I'm not knocking that because I love other choices, but the choice.
Although I was a little freaked out by how very many people must have died. Like, we don't see them dying, but all of that, you know, destruction of Hong Kong business, I just like freaking out.
Everybody went in Hong Kong.
Jason kept saying that everybody went into the Titan shelters.
Yeah, everybody went in the Titan, the whole town.
Though that's also.
No, I'm with Julia.
I mean, we know for a fact that Godzilla killed
much...
a lot of people in Florida.
Yeah,
like they say he did.
There's no. I mean, but that goes back to Godzilla is supposed to, and that's what everybody's freaked out about. And I think that's a really. Again, there are elements I really enjoyed. The fact that people kind of got we live with a Godzilla now, and we kind of know what's going to happen. The fact that everybody goes, "Oh no, we live with the Godzilla from 2014 now again." That's super scary. As soon as when he attacks the Apex plant.
That's right.
Everybody's going, whoa, wait. We were cool with Godzilla King of the Monsters because he keeps the monsters in check. We are not good with going back to 2014. That was really bad and really scary. What are we going to do now? And that's what freaks all the politicians out, what freaks the scientists out, etc. is what we don't want that Godzilla back.
Right.
And I thought that was actually interesting.
And I think
it really is
probably pretty true. Like, you asked Tony earlier if he was sad about Godzilla kind of being the heel of this movie, but that is Godzilla. Godzilla, changes. Like his moral barometer is always on the move. And
kind of unknowable to us. He's got his own agenda.
Well, first of all, he's a reptile, so
yes.
Although there's a few parts in this where they do a really good job of giving him some humanistic qualities that when we get into some of the fights I want to mention. But also,
I want to bring up something that I thought was fast. There are two things I want to get to next, and we'll get to the fights. One is the tech, and the other is the colors. All right, the tech. The tech is the thing, Drew, that means that this world we are looking at is just literally, it's not our world. It's like because they have spaceships. They have like basically Marvel Universe, fantastic cars essentially that zoom around
I mean the whole okay, so before you even get into that, you have to talk about the fact that Hollow Earth, which by the way, I'm like, how is Hollow Earth so sunlit?
So
I get that it's
the
energy.
Science. I should have said the science.
I get that it's energy lit and not sunlit, but it looks sunlit. But anyway, somehow sometimes they have to go through this this barrier where they get they like inverted gravity or whatever, and they figure out how to counter that. But then it doesn't affect Godzilla, and other times they don't seem to really have to. It just kind of depends on which way.
Godzilla doesn't go into Middle Earth. I mean,
Hollow Earth.
I'm sorry.
Yes, he does.
So a couple things.
I mean, not Godzilla. First, I meant King Kong. I said that last time too. King Kong.
Why I don't mean to washed? It's because he's a Titan.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like he should have different gravity. But whatever. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. Sorry. Again, I'm not trying to mansplain this, but the Hollow Earth theory is that there's actually a sun in the center of the Earth. Or, I mean, there's a bunch of different stuff, but Also, there's a really good but terrible Choose Your Own Adventure book about the Hollow Earth from
Sweet.
the 80s. In which case, it is frustrating because most of your choices that seem correct are just death choices. One of them is actually getting stuck because of gravity. You get sucked into the sun that's in the center of the Hollow
But what
Earth.
I was seeing was that somehow whatever that sun is or whatever that energy source is the same energy source that gives his axe the power, and and all of that's connected to Godzilla. Oh! I want to tell you my theory. I just remembered what I was going to tell you guys. I have a theory that this movie is the Bizarro Planet of the Apes, because not just this movie, but the idea that maybe Kong's people built those beautiful structures and that Kong was clearly his people were clearly the king of this world, and they built and now they're relegated to apes, and humans are the ones building everything. I'm kind of wondering if he's not whoa, what the hell happened here?
When they went into that throne room,
yes.
I know we're going out of order. When they went into that throne room and he picks up the axe out of the skull of a dead Godzilla,
the Jarrell axe.
I want to see a flashback of the war between the Kongs and the Zillas.
Totally.
I want that movie.
I would have way rather have more about that than some of the human stuff that we have.
Also, that Absolutely. Axe is, the design, the idea that it's a Godzilla spike.
Is that what it is? Is it
Godzilla
made of a Godzilla?
Yes, it's part Godzilla. Yes,
that is fucking rad, man.
I know.
No, that was cool.
Yeah,
all that stuff is great.
I'm totally with you on all of that. Again, it felt like this should have been. We should have gotten one more movie. We should have gotten the Jules Verne Kong movie.
Yeah,
and then
separate. They still could
other.
Given the end of this movie,
Kong
they still could make that movie. I would totally watch Kong's Hollow Earth adventure, a whole movie, a whole movie of him fighting bat snakes. I'm there.
Yeah, the whole thing is great. It's amazing.
I was definitely leaning forward in those times. Yeah.
Maybe what I don't quite understand, and again, if I miss things, and if anybody related to making of this film rolls their eyes at this, I apologize in advance. Not that they care about our podcast, but
Yeah.
What later on just kind of had me puzzled was for a huge section of the movie, the whole thing is hey, let's get Kong to this place and shove him through this singularity.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand why they exactly need. I guess they needed him to pick up the axe. They needed him for plot purposes, but they didn't know that was there. So
and maybe to fight any Titans they might run into. I don't know.
Right. But
clearly,
in general, they go, hey.
Yeah.
But in general, they go, hey, we need him to figure out what's down there.
Yes.
But they have a tunnel that goes there. It's not like they needed him to, and he's absolutely, until he recovers, he's absolutely useless falling through the air, with no Kong parachute.
That's true.
And that part something about that just bugged me, because they're all about we need Kong. Without this, we need Kong down.
Yeah,
in that
they waste
tunnel.
the whole
If
fleet
he doesn't lead
taking him there.
They say he's leading. He's got to lead us. But it's you
guess
already made the tunnel. You know where to go.
Them to the temple, because that's actually where the power.
I guess
power source.
Yeah,
that's what I'm guessing, and but the way it played out to me just felt like I don't.
Yeah, because they didn't show any kind of challenge to finding it.
Yeah,
right. Other than fighting the snake creatures was just cool.
No, but I mean, they just went. They got there and immediately went, "Hey, tell him that that's his new home and he needs to go in there." So they knew where it was. It wasn't he led them anywhere. Right. So the question is just once they get inside.
Yeah, they've discovered a tunnel. So let's try and articulate this plot, because it is the plot of the movie. And so all right, they have discovered a big tunnel that goes to Hollow Earth, and they've even built a sort of they've reinforced the outside of it, made it pretty with metal and lights and stuff.
Which they couldn't do before, because the previous people just got smashed by.
Yeah, they went so far down the tunnel,
gravity.
and then they go through the singularity and they get squished. But now, super smart Tony Stark type people, represented by, I can't remember the name of the Mexican
the bad
actor,
guy, Walter Simmons.
Oh my God, yes. I could listen to that guy. I would like for him to read me bedtime stories.
I love the way he said Godzilla.
He was really good.
The way he said Godzilla was so
everything.
Freaking
yes.
smooth.
I just loved how he talked all the time.
No, he's great.
I
He
told
is really
Jason.
smooth. Like,
I told Jason if that
Yeah.
guy showed up, I'd be like, sorry, sweetie, but I'm just gonna listen to him for a while.
Sure.
I'm just gonna like dreamily listen.
His name is Demian, which is a
Like-
great name, Demian Bashir. And anyway,
well, Julia goes, "Hey, do you like hosting like a podcast?"
He doesn't have to host
Would
it.
you
He
like
just has
to
to.
be a
He just has to
host?
be on it.
I'm just, yeah, just like, would you mind talking?
He'd be.
Jason,
He could be. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say he could be a guest, and Jason start talking. I'm like,
You
okay,
go.
sweetie, but let's let our guest talk now.
yes.
Julia goes, "Can you just say music?" I guess listeners don't know. That's what Jason says before to kind of lead us into instead of countdown. But I could picture Julia like, just try it once. Just okay, yeah. No, I'm with you though, Julia. He's a really smooth villain. I think he plays it really well. I think in a lot of ways he's more he's cooler in his villainy than our kind of brooding Mechagodzilla pilot, for sure.
Yes. Oh, for sure. But
the Mechagodzilla pilot probably has better hair if you ask 20-something.
yeah.
And I love his deep blue sea moment where he's just like, "Oh shit."
Yes.
That was pretty funny.
Absolutely.
But he and his daughter, who are the bosses of this group called Apex, they have made this super fantastic car that has this very powerful shield around it, essentially, and so it can go through the tunnel.
I'm already
But really-
shaking my head just as soon as you said the thing about the daughter, because I'm so speaking of plot things and human things that are annoying, I'm so
Yes.
irritated by her sudden like, and now I'm a really bad guy, and I'm like, what? No, that's like.
She was bad
Yeah.
guy. Pretty much seemed like she was
But
evil. from
I
the
just
get-go.
felt like that was kind of. It was just dumb.
I'm
the whole
not
thing
saying
just
it's not
annoyed me.
telegraphed, but I will say this: her demise did the one thing that I'm glad they did not nerf Godzilla, because ultimately these are still monsters, right?
Sure.
And as much as we
Right.
love them, and I love Kong and Godzilla like a lot, I don't like it when they ignore the fact that they are possibly dangerous. So when he
Sure.
like takes her little hovercraft and just
Squishes
smushes it, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
You're
Still
like,
a monster.
yeah, woohoo! Yeah, I was way
Um,
more excited about that than I was about the destruction of Hong Kong.
that just made me laugh. But
I
yeah,
did-
yeah. But
What were you
anyway,
saying,
they've
Jason?
got these craft to go through the thing. But I think that I understood when I was watching it that their clue was, we need to take King Kong because he is a danger to himself and the world because he makes Godzilla angry, and we need to take King Kong to the singularity and get him through there into Hollow Earth and leave him there. That'll make the world safer. And Apex wants to help with their supercars because they think they can get an energy source down
Well,
there.
also the idea, one of the ideas that they don't flesh out enough is that Skull Island is, and the Kong.
It's like
Skull
a reverse
Island.
Atlantis in a way.
Yeah, it's like
Like
cotton.
it's
like
pushed up through.
hurricane.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like they say that like the young girl is the last survivor of that native tribe that's on there, and they basically, Truman showed King Kong, and
Yes.
they also say that he's going to eventually outgrow that dome because he's still getting bigger. So
It's funny that you mentioned the Truman Show,
Right.
because we literally just watched that movie a couple nights ago.
Yes.
Well, it's the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, did they Truman Show Kong?
Totally, because it's a dome, like you said. But I love that. And then Kong, like, totally is like, I know it's a dome. I'm throwing a tree through it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
So
I enjoyed the little girl and her relationship to Kong and her mom. Like, all that felt like really interesting and genuine. And that was really good. But yeah, I mean, you are right, Jason, that as far as my question goes, like, yes, they're gonna lead him there. They kind of just the way they flip back and forth between needing him and protecting the Earth, all that stuff, it just felt very, it's probably what Drew was talking about, where there's some cutting room floor stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, and I don't need to be led around by the nose by, things, but it felt, I watch a lot of this kind of stuff. And it felt way more convoluted perhaps than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what I was reacting to
Just a little more
because
dialogue.
The set pieces
connecting
are
the
really
dots.
cool.
Yeah.
But it felt to me like inconsistent. But the set pieces are really cool, and I have no problem with, like, even if it was just as simple as, hey, let's take Kong to the Hollow Earth because that's necessary. Because the parts where they had to get people there and do things is what felt like, wait, you said this here, but now we're doing this.
Yeah.
And that's where I was not confused, but it just, I don't know. Like the sum of all of it felt, also eventually you have a Godzilla who can drill to the center of Hollow Earth with his blast, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, Godzilla was so overpowered. I was like, there is no chance that King Kong can beat him at all, especially because I thought King Kong was a lot smaller than he was. And then Kong gets his awesome, like, basically it's like he's equivalent of Captain America's shield or Wonder Woman's cuffs, where it's just like, now I have power because of my awesome axe. But up until then I was like, he's got the armor, so he can't be beaten by anyone really, Godzilla, and and then he's got the size, and even if he's the same height as King Kong, which of course is a stretch, but they're doing that here, he's also got that giant tail that can just, and then he's got the atomic breath. It's crazy. So I was really surprised that Kong was able to hold his own.
It's that's, I think, part of the reason why Kong, it does make sense to have Kong. And I want to talk about one thing before we get too in depth with the fight.
Yeah, please.
Before I get away from this thought, I want to say it. It makes more sense narratively to have Kong. That's why he is effectively the protagonist of this movie, because he's the underdog, and that makes him more interesting.
Yes,
like he is Rocky, effectively.
Right.
No, I loved his character. I was just really worried for him.
Honestly,
yeah, and Rain felt the same way. Like by the time when he's on the ship and it's raining and all of that,
yeah,
Rain
it's horrible, especially because he's locked up.
Oh, I know. She's like, I know we're supposed to root for Godzilla, but I feel really sympathetic for Kong. I agree with you, because I mean they do a really good job for him to be a CG actor. They do a really good job of him being a CG actor.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, and his relationship
with
the
really
girl
well.
too. Like,
it was really sweet.
Well, like, I wanted to talk about that for a second, because I think one of the coolest ideas in this movie, and I didn't want to go through the entire podcast without talking about it, is Kong has no sign language in this.
Yeah.
And of course gorillas can learn sign language, so that's a thing. And then the actress that's playing Gia, the native girl, she's actually a deaf actress, so like the signing
really?
is all on point. Yeah. And I just was really, because like the thing that they've always done with Kong is that like he gets a crush on some blonde woman. And in this they forego that, and they make him kind of a father figure, and it just works, man.
Yeah,
like
if you could have had just the whole thing be just her and like some symbolic adult that's just kind of around, and then all the monster stuff, and that would have been fine. You did not need any of the other people except for the corp. You need the bad guy corporation, because that they just suck.
Well, but I mean, it's Kong and Godzilla versus Elon Musk, effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
I also like how they really bring it out slowly, because at first you get the impression she's been trying and he's just not having it when you see at the very beginning of the movie, and then when you see that relationship deepen, that was really, really good. I actually really enjoyed that.
Well, and she like one of the last bits in the movie is her, before he goes off for like the final battle, she tells him to be careful, and that is adorable. And I just I hope, since this movie is kind of a surprise hit, and I hope if they do consider doing a sequel, I hope instead of doing what they've typically done with all of these movies and kind of scrub the entire cast and just do a whole new cast of characters with each movie, I really hope they bring her back, because I think that them as a pair is very fascinating to watch.
Well, I think it's funny that the actress who plays her mom is also a science type in the Iron Man 3. She's the one that's
and Lost in Space.
Yeah, so they're just like, let's get that brunette science chick.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that is the truth. In fact, in animated shows, so Kong, they had kids. The Kong animated show from years and years and years ago, there was a boy. In the Godzilla animated show from when I was growing up, there were kids. But this is actually the first time it's felt really like poignant, and it
Mhm.
worked. Maybe not the first time, but in that, given those previous iterations, right? Like mainly it was because, hey, kids are going to watch this. We want to have a kid in there, and it works. Like
I guess that's
I liked
true.
that
Yeah.
when I was a kid. For the same reason Johnny Sokko's Giant Robot works.
Yes.
Or,
And I think if you're
any of
pedantic
that.
about that and you're like, oh, this is stupid, why would this kid be? You are utterly shouldn't be watching. I honestly, I just think it's the dumbest thing in the world to complain.
Yeah, you're not going to have a good
be
time
watching this movie.
Right.
If
But I
your
think
problem
as
with
far
this
as-
movie, oh god, I'm sorry.
No, but I didn't mean to interrupt. But as far as how those more children's show oriented things worked out, I thought this felt better and more genuine and actually had a lot of heart. And that's kind of two separate things, because you're looking for a different thing when you're looking, especially kids cartoons from 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember when the Kong cartoon, I think it was even before 70s, if I remember correctly. I had to look it up again. I'm just kind of remembering that from my past. But when you think about those and their intent, this definitely had a better through line than that. And
absolutely,
was actually really interesting, and I actually dug those parts a lot.
I was just thinking it is silly in a sense. Now, okay, sometimes you can make the excuse too much about a film and go, well, this movie is really for kids or whatever. That's an excuse that they used to make about Star Wars movies whenever people were backed to the, by people I mean George Lucas. Whenever they were back to the wall about something that didn't make sense, he would go, well, it's for kids, meaning, which was a dumb thing to say because kids are not stupid, and that was a terrible way to defend story choices that you like or don't like. But having said that, some of these tropes are there and they are acceptable because they might appeal to kids, and if you're not ready to ride along with it, this genre is just not for you. And kids being in dangerous situations with giant monsters is definitely one of them. So
well, I think that first of all, kids love dinosaurs, and
sure.
King Kong and Godzilla feel kind of interconnected to that love. And
not if you're talking to my niece. We were telling
really?
she had remember Jason, we had a little Zoom birthday party for Genevieve, and she wanted a dinosaur theme, and Jason, we were talking about how Jason had Godzilla. She goes, that is not a dinosaur. It does not count.
Yes.
Technically he is a dinosaur.
Well, not too
I was actually saying this on Twitter the other day, and I know that's asinine, but it drives me up the wall when people call Godzilla a lizard.
That's funny.
Like, I get so annoyed. Like, I know it's dumb too. I'm always like, except in the 98 movie, Godzilla is where he's a mutated iguana.
Yeah.
Godzilla is not a lizard. And even if you're like, well, he's too big to technically be a dinosaur, he's still some form of archosaur. And he even has scoots in the Legendary movies, which makes him look very crocodilian. So like, it just, I don't know, it's a dumb pet peeve. I know it's dumb. Like, I know, like,
no, that's fair.
I mean,
we all have our things that we
I can't stand it. Like, I now people are gonna troll. They're gonna hear this podcast and you're like, ha, now I know how the troll drew online. Lizard.
Lizard. Spoken by the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
Yeah, God.
Lizard.
Before I want to get to the fights. Really, the final fight is.
I know you wanted to talk about color, right?
But I wanted to talk about color. I wanted to take a moment and go color and light, really, which we'll talk about in the fight as well. But color used in the lab, in the train that Millie Bobby Brown takes from Florida to Hong Kong. The in the lining of the supercar, and of course in Hong Kong, which I think is just Hong Kong. But there is color everywhere, and it's groovy. I mean, and it's so wild. I mean, it's wild in the way that like Megalon was a 1970s movie. I wouldn't say this color scheme is particularly 2021 per se, but boy, is it nutso, and it's so particular to this film. And I was really happy about this daring choice. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it is neon in the places that seemed like this could be the most effective neon. It's almost like it almost has stuff like Drive or Neon Demon kind of,
or Tron. I mean, in a way, it reminded me of Tron with all the neon. Yeah.
I think we're getting away. Sorry, Tony.
Well, I just want to say, but then when they need it to be Skull Island again in the Hollow Earth, it's Skull Island to the max. Like it's Skull Island, but cranked in saturation, like
that's right.
in an almost Technicolor way, which is also pretty interesting. And it also does what they were smart in the fact that they contrasted it with this snowy area. And that was also really great. Like once they go, hey, so we brought Kong here. He's not getting out of Antarctica. Like there's no going back to Skull Island. And Kong even is like, this cold sucks. I do not want to get stuck here. Like, what do I do? And then so that's bleak and bright, and just so monochrome. Even Kong is getting snow, and he's becoming more into that. And then they quickly were rushed to super, Journey to the Center of Earth Technicolor, but amped, for the new CG era. And that, those are really interesting mood choices because they also, again, tie back to what Skull Island looked like in the previous movie. So that was really cool.
The color stuff, I think, is interesting because we've come out of several decades, and I think this in a way goes back to like the Matrix, which was everything was very jet black and leather and latex, and even the colors they had, it was like this vomit green sort of look to it, and that's been the aesthetic for a while, and it's certainly the Nolan Batman films and the Zack Snyder DC movies all kind of carried that forward. But then this movie, and a lot of people ragged on it, but also Wonder Woman 1984 both have like this sort of pop arty color scheme to them, and I think that it's because we're starting to move into a different aesthetic, and maybe it's because the world has been so oppressively grim, in the real world. Like that people are suddenly going like, no, I want, even in something about giant monsters, I want to give, everyone, this amazing color. And, I was very awestruck by how it was used. Particularly, there's like this one part where Kong and Godzilla are just like screaming in each other's faces, and all the neon is reflecting off of them. And it looks like a Basil Gogos painting, the way they framed it. I mean, I don't know if that was deliberate, but he had a very particular way of like using colors in his paintings of monsters. And they whether by hook or by crook, they replicated that.
Yeah, that's very well said.
I hope they were thinking about I agree with you, because I got that was the one thing when we met him at that con where we hung out. And I Godzilla poster signed by him. That poster, that is fantastic, and it's just bonkers how much color is there. And I totally agree with you. That's a great that's a great
find. I never would have thought of it, Drew, but that is just a fantastic observation.
Well, thank
you. His and that actually does bring us to the Hong Kong fight. The Hong Kong fight, do you guys want to talk about the other fights before we talk about the Hong Kong fight?
The fights, the boat fight is awesome. Like, it kind of gives you the sense of what it needed to give you this sense of, is that Kong is going to be outclassed as long as there's water involved.
Rain got really concerned, and I did to an extent. I mean, I know what's going to happen, but that it's pretty traumatic. Like watching Kong struggle, and it does make you, in the original Toho ones, they don't give you that same sense of drama or struggle. Again, I hope all these military people have great life insurance. In the same way, I think that the Godzilla Defense Force. Also, I hope that Japan pays their families well, because anytime you're taking a jet against Godzilla, that's that's gonna be bad.
One bit during that, you're talking about the jet thing. There's like one bit during that where Kong picks up a jet to throw at Godzilla, and the guy ejects.
Yeah, the
And
guy's
then
still in it.
he starts falling towards Godzilla, and I'm like, yes, that sucks to be that guy.
Yeah.
He actually jetpack. He actually gets out of the jet.
Yes.
Because Kong. It's Kong. If it was him against Godzilla, the guy's gonna die, and he might still have died. But we see him get out. But
I think
that's
he probably
that's not
did
fun.
die, because like it looked like his parachute landed right in front of Godzilla, and in my mind he got squished a second after that.
Right. But all of that stuff is done really well. But it also made Godzilla even more villainous in the way they portrayed him, and that's why this film, in tone, seems very much more of a Kong movie. That's what it is. But it's interesting because I don't feel like that so much in the original Godzilla versus Kong.
I think the other thing about that is, bear with me for a second, but Kong seems, even though Godzilla seems more powerful, and indeed I would say, even though like it's the way the movie kind of ends, it's still like, well, the battle could happen another day, like everybody lives to fight another day. Kong kind of seems like more of a badass because he's outclassed. Like he's like constantly kind of pulling the John McClane thing, to where he's getting the shit torn out of him, but he just doesn't quit. He's like really like, I'm not, no motherfucker, I'm not gonna bow to you. You may be king of the monsters, who I'm King Kong, bitch. Like it kind of makes him seem tougher, than if he was more on. It's like I guess it's the Superman versus Batman thing, the fact that he's just like this, like really determined, iron-willed. He's not a guy; he's a big gorilla, but he's got this fighting spirit, and that makes you want to root for him. And even. There's even points where he does get the upper hand on Godzilla, particularly, in the Hong Kong fight, because of his agility. And I think when those parts happen, you kind of go, yeah, because Godzilla does seem so much more badass in terms of power level. And I feel like I can say this pretty neutrally, because I like King Kong and Godzilla about even. I went into this not really, everybody was declaring for weeks and weeks whether they were Team Kong or Team Godzilla, and I'm like, I can't pick a favorite. Like I really can't. But like when I was actually watching the movie, I probably was driven into rooting for Kong, because Kong just had that again, the fighting spirit, and it's hard not to root for.
Well, they also set you up to be sympathetic. Like that's the whole up until most of the movie, Godzilla is the heel, and he's super villainous in the way that he attacks Kong.
There's even
Florida,
points where
they set you up to like
Godzilla's face, where he looks like he's going like, I'm beating
right. Well, that's what I'm
shit
saying.
Kong.
Like, how are you going to compare? Like, of course you're going to like Kong. He's the one with the little kid who touches and they write sign language and share a moment. Godzilla's like, oh, I'm going to drown you.
No, I agree that Godzilla's bad guy face is awesome. I love Godzilla's face.
And then, as we transition to the fight, also, the choice to make, I liked the way he moved, and I liked aspects of this Mechagodzilla, but I dislike the Terminator design, that aesthetic that he has a lot. That none of that. I loved the kind of spine charge up thing where they all lock into place, and I absolutely loved all the.
Silly. I was like, why did the spinal whatever, the vertebrae need to move to make any sense to me?
Yeah, no, it just looked cool, and I love the rocket powered kind of where he could maneuver using all these rockets. Like that was neat. But the design left, again, if anybody, if the designer's like, what? I spent, months designing that. I apologize.
They're like years, actually.
Maybe I'm too much of a purist. I don't know. But
it does.
The Terminator looking like all plates and rivets and the way that all looked to me, is just, now they are trying to get away from, they're going, hey, I want to do something different. And I hate to knock that approach. That's not really fair, because you want to kind of make it your own. But me personally, like watching it, other than the way he moved and the rocket thing and like the design of all of that, like this was not my favorite Mechagodzilla design. But I also didn't like.
It's fair of you to say, though, when you're talking about a character that you know and love, it'd be like if it's like how people get passionate when they change Superman's costume up. Like you want something to have a touch of the familiar, and this is a pretty radical departure from what the Toho Mechagodzilla looks like.
Now, what they might have also been, and I thought about this because I was really disappointed, and again, in my brain, I go, man, I know how much it takes to make something work. Like, I feel really bad for knocking this person's vision, right? That's just the way my brain is. Now, what they might also have been trying is, hey, why don't we make something that looks like the first iteration of this thing, and then later, if we make a later Mechagodzilla, he'll look all smooth like the Toho ones. And I mean the later ones, because the early one, has like on the pot belly, etc. So they might have been going for this is this version. When he gets upgraded, if we ever do that, he'll have that sleek look.
And by the way, there's definitely going to be a sequel. I mean, definitely. This has been the most popular movie of the year, so I don't know what's next, but they're definitely doing another
Kong Hollow Earth. Kong Hollow Earth.
Sure. Why not?
That's definitely probably on the table. One aspect I didn't like as much as well was once Mechagodzilla comes on screen, I mean, he cleans Godzilla's clock. Like, it's almost like there's just no, like, if Kong hadn't come along, basically Godzilla would have died. That's straight up how it is.
That's right.
And it's not just a Mechagodzilla, it's a Mechagodzilla that is a possessed Mechagodzilla for it's a
it's Ghidorah. It's actually also Ghidorah, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's one of the brains of King Ghidorah controlling Mechagodzilla.
How did they not know that wasn't going to go? Let's put the
in the same way that they didn't anticipate. Well, the same way in the later one, in the Kiryu Godzilla, they didn't anticipate Godzilla taking over, and he's built off of Godzilla bones, right?
That's what I'm saying when I say that this is a meme of not just fiction but real life, which is we constantly are creating technology that is actually going to end up totally kicking us in the ass because we don't we're just being like, I want to do something like like that. I want to create super soldiers, or I want to create in our case, in real life cases,
I want to create
super weapons, whatever it is. And every single time the thing comes back, like, Terminator or whatever, every single time the thing comes back to bite you in the ass every time.
Yeah. Oh, Julia, I've told people about this, and I've written about it all over the place. Like we have robots that can fit through tiny holes through peristalsis.
Yeah, the nanobots. There's like a
robot.
Drones.
Well, there's a robot that can...
the Sophia robot that scares the crap out of me, who says she wants to take over the world, and she goes, just kidding. It's like, are you?
There's a robot that can, jump over different pylons and run around, and I'm go, oh, that's the one that's going to chase you down and kill you.
Exactly.
You watch it.
It's RoboCop, man.
Everybody's making these things, and they go, well, no, I mean, we just have to not program it that way. It's like, okay, you didn't program it that way. But you can't guarantee who's in charge. Who is we?
Yeah,
Whenever I think about that,
I doubt it.
I always think about that song "Down at the Park" by Gary Newman. Which is about robots chasing people down.
Well,
and,
there was also the dog robot that they showed around, and then immediately people started posting like, okay, so if you're attacked by this dog robot, here's where its battery is. And all of these things, like, I thought about how cyberpunk, how William Gibson and dystopian this is. That we have to pre-train people with schematics on how to pull the battery from Robot Dog in case it gets equipped with guns or like needles, like in Hardware, or was it Runaway? right? The
Yes.
Tom Selleck movie.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we immediately
Robot
is like,
dog is gonna
oh, hey,
have a
don't put
needle
your
in his
hands too
nose.
close to,
Ugh.
yeah, like don't put your hands too close to robot dog's joints because you can get smushed. And
Jesus.
instead pull this, like the fact that is a thing that happens.
Mhm.
That's like, we shouldn't all have to worry about being our own Kyle Reese.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm
We shouldn't-
already concerned. First of all, total psychopaths can just use guns to do crazy shit. But I'm waiting for them to start doing crazy shit with drones. I mean, like, why is it that terrorists haven't started bombing people with drones? I
Well,
don't understand.
I'm sure that stuff happens. And we
It's
just
so
aren't hearing about
easy,
it.
man. It would be
This is,
so
though,
easy.
This is
Yeah.
why it's funny though, because like Julia, you've just hit on something on why this is still a Godzilla movie, because there's been a lot of lip service about how this movie isn't really about anything, and yet we've still come back to one of these central themes of what Godzilla is about, which is how the war machine can run amok. And so, like, even through all this like Saturday morning cartoon, this still has that at the core of that, and that's kind of cool. I think I will say this though, like backtracking, I wanted to say something. Tony's talking about how like Mechagodzilla like basically thrashes Godzilla, and it's true. But the moment they said, "Oh, the moment the toys spoiled that Mechagodzilla was going to be in this movie, I knew the way this was going to go is that they were going to have multiple battles. And you were going to have Godzilla win one and Kong win one. Then, Godzilla was going to finally defeat Kong. And then Godzilla was going to get his ass kicked by Mechagodzilla. And then Kong was going to defeat Mechagodzilla. Because this way, everybody has a win. Like if you're a fan of either monster. And it's super manipulative. It's super tropey. But, this way Godzilla's a winner. You can say, oh, Godzilla defeated Kong because he got his heart to stop. And then you can say, well, but Godzilla would have been killed if Kong hadn't come along with his axe. And,
yes.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but it's super predictable. Like but
it makes me happy as a kid that, in the end, I know this is going to sound just so pathetic, but in the end, they become friends because they're fighting a common enemy. It's great.
I don't think that they become friends. I think that there's like
they have a truce,
grudging respect.
What do you call it? A ceasefire? Yeah.
Yeah,
they give each other the bro nod as far as monsters go.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Godzilla has to at least be like, well, he is a dumb monkey, but at certain points he was just beating the shit out of me all over Hong Kong. So and if you want to say, Tony, there's probably why also Mechagodzilla was probably able to really wail on regular Godzilla, because Godzilla had also been fighting King Kong like all night. So and he drilled to the center of the earth. So he's probably pretty tired.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought at first that whole thing was why he didn't do more damage to Kong when they were kind of just yelling at each other, was because, he'd used up like most of his nuclear energy.
Drilling to the that may be the only thing in this whole movie, out of all the absurdities in it, that might be the only thing in this. And it's not even that Godzilla,
it was just weird because go ahead. Yeah.
It's not even that Godzilla can blast a hole to the center of the earth. It's that Kong was able to climb up to Hong Kong so quickly. Like that was like
that's
my breaking point.
That's what bugged me, is they make all of this singularity noise, and then once a nuclear blast hits, they're like, oh, we'll just look a hole. Cool. Let's go back. Anybody want to drive to Hong Kong? Because there's a hole that leads right there now, thanks to Godzilla.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, it was neat. It was neat that Godzilla can do that. Like Godzilla, the diamond drill to all the way. I guess from China technically.
It's so silly.
His
but
aim's impeccable.
I mean, then again, I accepted completely that. I still think that Superman 1978 is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. But Superman turned back time.
With you on that.
I'm sorry?
I don't think many people would argue with you on that.
All right. But Superman turns back time by flying so fast that he reverses the Earth, I guess symbolically, and turns back time. And then goes back and does something different. That's a stretch. That's like a God level thing. But it's okay.
No, I'm
because
with
you're
you.
like, all right,
I mean,
it's just the way it all
Godzilla,
like
it's in its name, man.
Yeah.
I guess
but they
you know,
make such a big deal about the whole getting there part.
Yes.
That when they have to go
I know.
from
Yeah.
the middle,
that's
what is really like, wait, what?
Didn't need any of that stuff. Like, I
Mm.
really think they had set
I'm
up
with you.
that Kong and Godzilla's species had literally gone to war with each other, and I think that's all that. Like, you didn't need any of the Mechagodzilla stuff. Like, you really didn't, other than the fact that they wanted to and I don't actually, you could still have Mechagodzilla in this movie as just like, hey, we want a Titan deterrent, let's build a robot Godzilla. Right. Like, because that was good enough for, you know, the Millennium series. So
hey, can I ask a general question?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know that we're talking about the fight, and if there's anything else you want to talk about in there, let me know. But I just want to ask this general question. We've seen a lot of King Kongs. I think this is a super expressive King Kong. Is this your favorite King Kong? Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to like list the King Kongs that you've watched, you know, and don't forget there's Jackson Kong, there's, you know, stop motion
I
Kong.
of take them on different. Like, I don't think I have a favorite as far as that goes.
I kind of think of them all as the same character in a weird way. Like, the heart is still the same. You know, like I definitely dig this version of Kong, like his backstory, like, you know, because like the other movies, like Skull Island is just kind of there, and they don't really ever go into the like this. They kind of came up with like a whole mythology that he's a part of, and like I hope that the Monsterverse continues, because I think all this stuff is interesting.
You know, Skull Island as a reverse Hollow Earth Atlantis is pretty cool. And again, by the way, I should also preface all this, like, my arguments on this makes sense and that doesn't make sense. I would also fully accept if even a filmmaker went, Tony, for real, are you going to debate this Kong? Like, yes, I get it, but like, are you really? This is really the hill you're going to die on? This is really where you're going to get, you know, angry at a movie? And the answer is, you know, this is me reacting to the movie, but I also fully get how kind of ridiculous it is to go, well, I don't know if the science, blah blah blah. Like, I have to, you know, take a hard look at myself and go.
Just repeat to yourself, it's just
what are you
the
even
show.
talking
I should
about?
really
like,
just relax.
Yeah. No, I fully get how kind of ridiculous it is to really put that forward. But again, you know, when you set up movie with certain rules, I guess that's what I really like. I'm okay with there being crazy rules, but as long as you're kind of consistent with that,
you know.
But
Tony,
I like I said, I fully. If you're looking, if somebody was listening and going, "Come on, man, for real," because I've done that as well. That you're not wrong. I guess is what I'm.
Tony, credit where it's due. Also, like again, I watched this movie like 2 times in one day, but like the first time I watched it, I had kind of a harder time getting into it because like, you know, one of the reasons why I like Godzilla movies is because I used to watch them with my twin, and like I made like a post that I was going to watch this, and some people started like posting pictures of my twin, and which is kind of like a mixed bag. It made me feel like go into the movie very like melancholy. So like, you know, like after, you know, like when I went back and I was like, well, I want to really, you know this movie backwards and forwards, and I didn't feel like I was paying it, you know, giving it enough attention. Like when I watched it the second time, I had like a much more like joyful, like, oh, this is cool kind of thing. So like, and I'm not like you should feel how you feel. You know, like, you know, it's kind of, this is my long-winded way of saying it. Like, it's okay to not like stuff as much, just like it's okay. Like believe me, like when we do Shin Godzilla in a couple of weeks, you're going to hear me completely nitpick stuff about that. Like it's okay to be like, this is a version of a thing I really like, and I have certain expectations of that, and you know, that's okay. You know, like you've been more than fair. I think I think that you've been very magnanimous to this movie, that you don't seem like you enjoyed it as much as the rest of us, but that's fine.
I guess maybe that's also what bums me out, is I have a lot of friends who really like, dude, I just saw King Kong and Godzilla fight, and there was a Mecha Godzilla. This is amazing. And that's kind of how I felt when I saw Pacific Rim the first time in the theater, and just couldn't, like, did you see that? Oh man. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and it could be, again, I've said it many times, I always think of Empire Strikes Back, or like you bring it into the cave what's with you, right?
Yeah.
And it could be that. There's any number of things. Like when you go to watch a movie, you're bringing whatever's there with you. It's hard to have a clean palette as far as that goes. But yeah, part of me also is like, man, I wish I saw the movie that friends of mine who were really into it saw, because that's the Godzilla movie I want to see every time. Like I want to experience that Godzilla movie every time I watch a Godzilla movie, if possible. Just because I love the characters, I love the creatures. This is something. These giant monster movies are something that I just enjoy. So not enjoying it as much felt kind of like a double blow, because I wanted to see that. I felt a long time ago, I felt the same way when I saw it was like a Danzig concert, and I had never seen Danzig before. And there was this guy next to me, just not too far away, a few feet away, 6 feet or so. And watching that guy, this was the best concert ever. And I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it okay. Like but it wasn't quite the same. Because I'd seen the Misfits with the Graves Misfits, I think at like Liberty Lunch or something. But I kept looking over at this guy at the Danzig concert, going, "Man, I wish I was watching that Danzig concert."
Yeah,
because that looks like whatever that guy is experiencing, that is amazing. And I want to be there because that looked awesome. And again, I enjoyed the show. It was a good, solid concert. But all I could think about was, whoa, I want to be at the show that guy's at.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I think that's what I felt when I was watching this.
No, for real.
To be at the Godzilla movie that a few friends of mine really enjoyed it. And I felt kind of sad that I wasn't watching that movie, even though we saw the same movie.
It's pretty great, isn't it? Though, like I've been to movies before where the movie didn't matter to me at all, but to the audience that was around me, they were into the lore. They were into everything. They giggled at all the inside jokes. And that makes me super happy. You know, I'm like I think it's awesome. It's like going to somebody else's church. You don't like go to that church. You're not into it.
Where credits due, though, they also had things like all of the little bits that are Easter eggs.
Yeah,
this was definitely, let it be known that the people, right, however it came out, whoever, the screenwriters, or how it got changed around. I mean, movies like this, there's a lot of hands. I hope it's in the original script that the screenwriters wrote. But there's a Denham University. That's you're like, that's really good.
Yeah.
All that. There's the Kong heart slowing down. There's the, there's a bunch of bits that just the skull that's Ghidorah here, but is Godzilla in another one. Like all of that stuff. Bits of Hollow Earth stuff. Like people were really. This isn't like those things didn't have to be there at all to please fans. Like at no point did they have to be there, but they were.
Yeah.
And when you catch them, if you're a fan, hardcore fan, that's always really nice, because it shows like you're kind of in the mix. Like, somebody leans over, like, you saw that, right? And you're like, I like that inside.
Tony, I have to say it was weird watching this without you, because the only one of these movies that I've seen without you leading up to this one was King of the Monsters, and I can't remember why that didn't work out.
Lots of stuff was going on. I actually saw that one in Oslo.
Oh, that's right. You were out of the country.
Yeah, and it left theaters really quick, so I'm glad I caught it in Oslo. Man, I will say, the Cineplex I went to, I don't know if all their Cineplexes were that way, but they had the concession stand was like a convenience store, and you could get popcorn that also had like these like pork rind, the kind of sort of pork rinds, but they're not whatever you call them, and they were like bacon flavored. And you could get that, and the popcorn was in these like heated things that are like the Coke, like those glass door soft drink kind of things, except they were heated, so your popcorn was in there. It was that convenience store thing was just awesome. And the back rows were kind of like some of the draft houses, so the back rows were like couches. And oh man, and I normally miss the draft house because it's the no talking, but there was a kid in there. I say kid, he was probably like junior high or maybe middle school, and he was there for Godzilla, and so I did not mind a little bit of talking, a little bit of excitement, like a lot of excitement. So that was actually a really fun experience. I posted a few pictures on Instagram from my Deserts of Mars account because that's where, and it was Godzilla. It was called Godzilla 2.
Really?
I don't know if that was all across Europe, but it was.
Oh, that makes sense.
All the posters and all the things was Godzilla 2. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen that with you, Drew, of course. But it was really fun. We went and saw that, and we saw it was a rainy day one day. We went and saw Rocket Man in that same theater. So
wow,
that was cool.
Jason, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because you asked us if this was our favorite version of Kong. Is it your favorite version of Kong?
Boy, I don't know. It's a good one. I mean, I like the humanity of this sort of Rocky-like Kong. I love. I also, I mean, they've gotten so good. They're like, I have to tell you, there was not a moment in this movie where I did not completely accept the reality of these creatures. It was so. It's like being a kid again. They are so real. I love that.
That part where Kong is leaping at Godzilla off the building with the axe while Godzilla is firing his atomic breath at him.
Yeah,
like when they do the close-up of Kong's face, that really, and I'm not like a giant CGI fan, but that looks like a real gorilla right there.
It all looks so beautiful, and I love the fact that you're up at their shoulders all the time. I didn't like the whole legendary thing over the past. Maybe I'm being unfair about this. In my memory, the way these movies have been very much with the camera usually about 6 feet off the ground, and these creatures are like whatever they are, like 400 feet tall or something. Yeah. And so they're gods, right? Here in this one, the camera's up here at the shoulder of
it's at the top of the mount of the building.
And it's great.
My favorite King Kong moment is when he kills all those flying the two flying creatures he kills one and then he uses that one to kill the other one.
Yes.
And then he like throws him down and beats his chest, and I'm like, damn straight.
Like, oh, yeah.
I love that so much.
I love it. Mind you, look, I had no real emotional attachment to Peter Jackson's Kong, although I like him on the ice when he's having fun on the skating rink. I really love the 1976 Kong, because he fights a snake and he has a crown at one point. So, but this is probably the best Kong I've ever seen, honestly. But I still have a real soft spot for the 1976 King. I really do.
You're in the minority in that, even though I kind of feel the same. Like I really do like that. But I was surprised as an adult how reviled that movie is.
It is not beloved. That's true.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
I remember when we did the Kong retrospective, like I was like the odd man out on that, and yet I'm a note of a completist that I'm probably gonna buy that Blu-ray of it. Like
really.
Yeah. Well, when I collect stuff, like I can't, like I get OCD.
I understand. I get it.
I have to have all of it, and it's also partly because I want to watch the special features. Like I want that knowledge. But the 33 Kong rules. Like it's like if you're gonna ask me which one I still think is the best movie, like the 1933 Kong is like it really delivers. But in terms of modern Kong,
Oh, Drew, Jason, actually, were you at the screening that we saw at Numathon where we saw that?
What, Kong 33?
Kong? Yeah.
No, I don't think so, Tony.
Wow. So there was I can't remember if that's the one that Peter Jackson was at as well. But at it was that or another one, but there was a brand new print that had been struck that I got inside scoop that the projection said basically was almost like it was wet, it was so fresh.
Wow.
And
Jackson
I did not see anything.
Singular,
didn't see
that was
Peter
a singular
Jackson.
experience. Seeing that Kong print where I had seen it on grainy UHF or VHS, that brand new print run through a projector was one of the singular experiences I've had in a theater. Like it was a brand new movie in many ways, especially because by the time you're an adult, I'd seen bits. It's just ubiquitous. It's in soft drink commercials and like all you've seen those scenes replayed, and sometimes they're grainy and just not that well archived, and you've seen VHS, but seeing a brand new restored print of that Kong was in my memory. take that to my grave as far as like, wow, that's how that should be seen. I can't believe I got to experience that. I don't even care if there were people who all was there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I care because it was friends of mine and stuff too, right? But like the cinema experience of seeing that, especially with a lot of people who really enjoyed it, like a theater full of people who want to see this film, and seeing it restored like that. If you ever get a chance to see a restored print of that film in glorious black and white on a big screen, I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say life-changing, but it was definitely a cinematic experience. I've gone through few of them that were that just eye-opening as far as,
That's
whoa,
amazing.
This is how this should be seen. I can't stress that enough. I know I'm
Why?
kind of belaboring it, but
what do you think is the significance of that? Like what made a huge? Was it just suddenly I'm seeing clearly what before has been a degraded?
all of it, yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. It was just a lovingly restored print on a big screen full of, again, it's a cinematic experience full of people that who are all there enjoying it, but not just that, but just everything is clear. And in fact, you and I have both probably, and Drew, we've all been to screenings where that is the big difference. Some of these, you're seeing it probably better with a better projector than audience who saw it when it was new.
Yes.
Certainly outside of a premiere where they were really wanting it to be, stunning.
Yeah.
There's restored prints of things that show, and you go, wow, I think I may be seeing a better version of this than what audiences saw originally.
Or it'll have been lost for a long time. I mean, for instance, in the 60s, they would release like, big, musicals and stuff like that on road shows, and they'd be these enormous prints shown on enormous screens, and limited engagements around before it ever goes into wide release. Like you'd spend a year just in these limited engagements. And, then the experience that the rest of us got for the next like 20, 25 years was a very limited version where, and then of course it's panned and scanned. Mm-hmm. And so the only experience you ever see is this one with the sides chopped off and absolutely. But Drew, yeah, I mean, well, King Kong 76 is also on HBO Max, so you have yet another shot to.
Well, I want the Blu-ray for the special features because I also look at that as like a learning experience. But I'm also curious. Did anybody? I kind of feel like because there's the big online debate, like, are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla? Mm. Where was everybody falling on when they went into this movie, and were they on the same side of that when they were done with it?
That's a good question, actually. I was still Zilla, but I think Rain had shifted a few points to the Kong side, even if.
Guilty.
And I think I probably did too. Like, there's certain moments where you're like, oh, you can't, Kong, so.
No, I definitely am Team Kong, but I don't know if I 100% was before I went in, but I definitely was coming out.
I just couldn't care less. I was not in a mood.
He's a vigilante.
I was just not at all in a mood. In fact, as I turned it on, suffering the same shit that Tony has, where your mind's other places, you're thinking about other stuff. So, the movies that you watch are just, in a sense, a victim to the mood that you walk in all day with, right? And even so, it's still better than not watching a movie, that's for sure. This is my medicine. But I walked in and I was like, I don't know, what is the point of all this? Why are giant monsters fighting? Like, is this about energy? What's the point? Like, why are
Jason
we doing
and I
this?
have this conversation over and over where he goes, I don't get what the point is. And I'm like, what is the point of anything fiction?
Right. But that only lasted like 90 seconds.
I know,
It only lasted like 90 seconds, and I'm in the movie. And I was like,
it's
totally
awesome, Jason.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. Yeah. What's the point of Scars of Dracula? What's that over and over again? So,
yeah. I believe in my house, Jamie kept saying, well, it's like, well, you're Team Godzilla, right? You're Team Godzilla, right? And I was like, I think I'm pretty neutral, but she was like, well, I think she was thinking she was going to be Team Godzilla, but by the time that movie was over, she was definitely like all in Team Kong. Like, I definitely think I'm probably leaning more towards the Kong side of the debate. as far as this movie goes, because I just think it's a King Kong movie. Like, even though Godzilla is top billed, this is a King Kong movie.
That is the truth, and that's part of that. That's definitely the plus minus in my mind as far as enjoyment goes.
So is this leading into our closing thoughts, Jay?
Yes, I
right.
absolutely think so. And I may almost have them because we've definitely talked about everything I can think of here. But let's do it again.
Sized episode, a Godzilla
right, exactly. Let's get our closing thoughts.
Titan episode.
Tony, I've really enjoyed listening to your thoughts on this, and I think, as always, you're extremely magnanimous. Give us your final thoughts on Godzilla.
I mean, I don't know about magnanimous. I still argue about ridiculousness. But anyway, thank you for that. I enjoyed a lot of the bits. I will give credit to everyone involved there's a lot of fan service type stuff that didn't have to be there that is really cool. I kind of wish there was a Kong movie and then a Godzilla versus Kong movie, because I liked the Kong adventure, but I kind of wanted more Godzilla in a way. I thought the fights were really cool, although I felt a little cheated by just how Mechagodzilla cleans Godzilla's clock just insanely. But that's just part of it. But I think I probably, walking back through it, enjoyed the bits we talked about. Still maybe not my favorite movie in the series, and certainly not my favorite Godzilla movie. That's still going to be 85, I think, every time. But it's kind of like your favorite band, right? Like, for a lot of people, you get your top 10, and that's kind of sticks with you through adulthood.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to topple that in general. And that's just what happens. That doesn't have anything to do with the filmmaking at all.
Listen, I've got a Godzilla 85 poster over my shoulder right now, so I'm with you.
Yeah, I have one. I think it's in storage right now because it was in my practice space. But yeah, I have that poster, and I have a Dark Crystal poster framed, and those are my big movie posters that I take care of. But yeah, I wanted to like it more, and that still makes me a little sad, but that's on me more than anything else. It certainly, it looked really great and had some really cool fights. And, for a lot of people, that's kind of really where we're at, right? Like, hey, let's have a distraction where monsters duke it out.
Yeah.
Monster wrestling. CG monster wrestling, like, come on. Do you need all the other stuff? Maybe not. I don't know. But that's kind of my final. I wish I had liked it more, and that's kind of on me.
Love it. Julia, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I just want to reiterate that it's a gorgeous looking film. I mean, I love the Hollow Earth, like how pretty it is. It just feels like a really beautiful place to be. Hong Kong is gorgeous. Jason and I are both like, oh my God, I want to go there if that's what it looks like. And just all of the effects. I really feel like they're just fantastic. You really do feel like they're giant monsters are fighting with each other. So, I mean, to me, that's what you really go to this movie for. Like we said, I think I could have done without a lot of the people plot, or a lot or more of it if we were going to, just commit to it. But I think it would have been fine to just have a lot less of it, actually. But yeah, I think it was a really fun trip, aside from the part where I was super traumatized by all the people dying in Hong Kong.
True to form, though, it looks like they destroyed a lot of Hong Kong sites and buildings.
No, they destroyed the heck out of it.
Godzilla does,
Yep.
especially in the 90s ones, they would specifically, like, whatever building. A friend of mine from Japan goes, "Hey, watch them, they destroy that." So that building's new this year or this past year. And I think
That's how you
did that in a good way. Yeah,
I remember. I think I've told you guys before that I watched Independence Day when I was living in Houston, and they blow up Houston in that movie, and everybody in the theater cheered. So that's like one of those things where you're just like, yeah, that's my city, it's going down.
Except when they destroyed Boston in the previous Godzilla movie, and every Bostonian I know is super salty about that.
Really?
Oh yeah,
that's hilarious.
But that is actually a very Boston attitude about it.
Can you imagine how
that
cool it
makes
would be
total sense.
if King Kong picked up the reunion tower and like smacked somebody with that big electric dandelion thing? And
Yep.
then, God, how cool that would be. Golly. I really want
Anyway.
to see that.
I definitely
Anyway.
have mixed feelings about all of it because I'm way too empathic that I start to go, oh my God, those poor people. But then I'm
Nobody's
like, okay,
in the
it's just
reunion
a
tower.
movie.
I
It's
mean,
no, of course there are people. But anyway, no, I'm just saying, like, I watch the stuff and I just can't, suspend my, in this case, it's not suspending my disbelief, it's suspending my, my belief, like being like, this is, tens of thousands of people. Every time they like run it, like land into a building, I'm like, there goes another 1,000 people. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway.
Drew, what are your final thoughts?
Well, it was the King of the Monsters versus the Eighth Wonder of the World, and I think the real winners are us because, first of all, we got to have this conversation, but two, Tony made an excellent point that it's been a rough year. And I think that watching something like this, where it's just like willful spectacle with two of the most iconic movie characters of all time in it, there's just something fun about that. And even though there is lots of destruction, but that's what you want in a movie like this, it kind of brings your hope up. And I just had a good time watching this movie. It's got a lot of flaws, like I'm not blind to that, but I still find it like kind of honestly talking about it made me kind of want to go watch it again. I just had such a good time with it. And I do hope that they do more of these. Like, I like the Monsterverse, and I think they're now kind of at a point where it's like a fully developed giant monster universe, and they don't have to keep doing all the backstory stuff, because I really want my King Kong and the Hollow Earth adventure. And for Tony, I want Godzilla to have a rematch with Mechagodzilla, where he kicks Mechagodzilla's ass. And I hope it's not another 60 years for Godzilla and King Kong to share the screen together, because they're a good duo. And now that we've got all the slap fighting out of the way, let's do a buddy cop movie with King Kong and Godzilla. I like those kids.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, my final thoughts, I have very little to add because we talked about this a lot. I'm waiting for them to do legendary versions of other stuff that has, we finally got last one, we got the legendary riff on the Mothra twins, right? And in this one, we get a legendary riff on Mechagodzilla. Makes total sense. And in a sense, Mecha King Ghidorah, right? So I can't wait for like a legendary version of Jet Jaguar. I'd love to figure out how the heck they're going to do something like that and try to sell it and go.
So So the new animated Godzilla Singular Point has a Jet Jaguar in it.
Oh, really?
So that's going to be cool. Yeah. And a kind of goofy iteration, and then he kind of evolves, it looks like, just from judging from the trailers. So
Great.
Yeah, Godzilla Singular Point looks pretty cool with a lot of cool fan service. So I'm excited about that.
So I definitely, you should watch this movie. I mean, there's no way in heck. First of all, nobody's going to listen to this show at this point without having watched this movie already. But you should definitely watch this movie. There are salty people on Twitter who are going, I think that the dialogue in this movie is not very good, and I think you are missing the point. If you
but we're saying that too. But we're also saying
you should like what you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're saying that we don't love the human part too, but we're also saying we appreciate the stuff that's good.
Well, the best actors in this movie are Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah.
Then I forgot about this. Another fan servicey part. I forgot that in Godzilla versus Destoroyah, the Hong Kong gets attacked.
Huh.
So there's a lot of bits.
There's some people that think that the crustaceans and the Hollow Earth might be a setup for Monsterverse Destroya.
Okay.
Well, that one's also when he gets burned really badly, he has like the burn marks that look kind of Destroya. Because in that one, Godzilla's melting down, like he's actually having a nuclear meltdown in Destroya.
True. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, I've recommended films that I don't even think are very good because I think there are certain elements of it that one should see if you're interested in the topic. Like I have 1,000 times recommended Dracula the 1969 one by Jess Franco. That's not a good movie, but there are elements of it that I think if you're a Dracula fan, you must see. And I think it would be ridiculous to ignore something as truly culturally significant, and I'm not being sarcastic, as Godzilla versus Kong. So yeah. No, it is. Excuse me, this thing is dominating our culture. It's
the movie. It is the
ignore it.
movie that is saying that is going to save the movie business. So this movie is history, as weird as it sounds.
Right.
Like, I think whenever they talk about the pandemic from here on out, they're probably at some point are going to mention Godzilla versus Kong, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I like I said, I know somebody who said, "Hey, don't spoil this movie for me. I'm almost, out of second shot quarantine. This is the movie I'm going to go see now that I'm fully vaccinated."
Yeah.
And that's something else. Like I just need to get my shot so I can go see Godzilla versus Kong.
Whereas I'm over here going, man, I have to go to the theater to see The Courier. What?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be my first theater movie. Maybe it'll be The Courier. Anyway.
Of course,
right.
But that's something. But
yeah.
That's what's going on right now is people going, hey, just give me a couple weeks. I want to see it in IMAX, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I had seen this in IMAX. I bet you this would be
can.
cool in IMAX. It's true, but I'm about a month away from my second COVID vaccination, so like we'll see.
So we should get our endorsements. I'm it's been like whatever it is, like 6 weeks or something since we've actually had.
Well, the three of us talked on Sunday, so I have the only new thing I have.
Jason doesn't think it counts unless he's a
it
part
counts, but I'm just talking about the whole gang being together. We haven't had.
Yes.
So I'm dying to hear what you might have to endorse. So Tony, what do you have for us?
I have a few things actually. One is again my Amazon "Hey, let's pick a random thing" movie, which is called The Snake Woman, and it's billed as a rare classic horror film. And black and white awesomeness. I haven't finished all of it because again it was a super late night watch, but it has a lot of atmosphere and a mad scientist trying to cure somebody with snake venom. That goes horribly.
Sounds great.
But there's some. Jason, when I queue up The Snake Woman, it's cool. I also got sent this, and again I'm gonna go back to 33 Kong. If you see the restored print of that, of course, I know I went off on that, but seriously, that's worth seeing. If you like this movie and you get a chance in the future, whatever the future holds, to see a restored print in a theater, I highly recommend that. I also got sent a screener for a movie that just came out on the 30th, like video on demand, called Witness Infection. And it's a horror comedy, comedy version of kind of Sopranos Jersey style mobsters with body horror, zombie-ish kind of stuff. Very tongue-in-cheek, very midnight movie. Drew, I thought this is a movie you might dig on.
Sounds like
not everybody is. It leans on the like intestinal humor bit, and I don't know if it's your bag as far as that goes.
Okay. Fair.
But it is a lot of people, and you'll recognize a lot of actors and actresses where you go, oh yeah, cool. They're in this like, kind of midnight movie budgeted kind of mob meets zombies. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor. I like it when people, send screeners and they're, hey, check this movie out. And I don't write for horrormovies.net anymore, but I figure we can, give those, cool, fun movies a shout out. And I actually did enjoy this. It's, very kind of, there's parts that are really broad humor. So I don't know if this is your bag, Jason.
Okay.
But I had fun watching, mobsters deal with zombies. There's some really cool practical, latex ripping up bodies and, that kind of stuff. And it kind of has that, there's, different, you see a lot of horror comedy zombie stuff in this, and definitely there appears to be a love for that as well. And, I'll definitely shill for anything where you can tell the filmmakers are enjoying it, and everybody's kind of getting this cool thing. So it's definitely like a late night movie. I'm gonna dig on this vibe. If you like mobster movies and you like kind of zombie stuff, it's pretty good. Witness Infection is the name of the movie. It's on demand on Amazon for rental, but it's on most of the platforms. So they just released it on the 30th. So it's fun,
Very good. Awesome. Thank you. Julia. Well, okay, so you said you did some endorsements already.
No,
earlier.
what I was saying was, that I don't really have any new things per se, aside from just everybody needs to get the vaccine, but you either are super excited to get the vaccine or you're not, or me telling you to is not going to change your mind, whatever. But anyway, that's one. No, I think, I don't know. I don't remember if I've ever endorsed one of my favorites. One of the things that I spend the most time with, which is Eric Voss, New Rockstars. I don't remember if I've ever endorsed him, but New Rockstars is a YouTube channel, and it's basically Eric Voss's baby, and he does breakdowns of mostly like superhero stuff. He's done pretty much the whole MCU. He's done the DCEU, and he does like a video I should say, the channel does a video pretty much every day. And I have gone there between him and Ryan George, who I have endorsed a few times. I spend so much time at night listening to them, just as I'm trying to fall asleep, and even while I'm sleeping, like it just plays in my ear. So I have to. If I have never endorsed him, it's a terrible shame, because he's very important to me. Anyway, so that's one. If I haven't, and if I have, then I'm doing it again.
That's wonderful. Drew, what about you?
Well, I'm going to start off with a purely self-serving endorsement, because I know this is going to be an episode probably a lot of people listen to. If you are from Texas, I need your help, because I am once again, for the third year in a row, up for a Best of Austin award. And if you're from Texas, you can go to the Austin Chronicles website. It's just austinchronicle.com, and you can go and vote for me in the comic creator, graphic novelist category. And there's a lot of cool people up for it this year, as there usually is, and I'm happy to have my name next to them no matter what ends up happening. But naturally, I would like the win. That would be pretty cool, and every vote helps. So Texans out there, if you want to show some support for me, that would be awesome. So that's my selfish endorsement. But as I said when we did the Mothra episode, it's been so long since we've recorded. I've consumed so much media. I almost feel overwhelmed when asking something to endorse. So a couple of things. Tales from the Crypt Keeper is now on Amazon Prime as a rental pretty cheaply, and it's a 1990s animated version of Tales from the Crypt, just like the title says. I highly recommend the first two seasons. One, because the animation style actually tries to look like an old EC horror comic, and along those same lines, they actually have the Old Witch and the Vault Keeper on it, which is something the live action show never had. It's funny, it doesn't, like, you have all the, throughout the 80s and 90s, you had stuff like, the RoboCop cartoon and the Rambo cartoon, or the Toxic Crusaders or whatever, where they would take this R-rated property and turn it into a kid's cartoon, and it feels weird. But when I'm watching this, I never feel that way, and I don't know quite why that is. Like, it doesn't talk down the kids. Like, the stories are actually trying to be kind of scary, but and because of that, it still feels like Tales from the Crypt.
That's good.
But at the same time, it's not. It's definitely not as violent or as lurid as the TV show or even the comics that it's based off of. But it's a pretty cool little relic of the '90s and something I think horror fans who haven't seen it might get out of. The third season is kind of shitty, so I don't recommend watching that, even if, no matter how much of a hardcore Tales from the Crypt fan you are. Along those same lines, I literally watched this before we recorded this episode. Season 2 of Creep Show has started, and they started out with what I think is probably their best episodes. The problem I feel like this show has had, even though I enjoy it, is that they do 2 stories per episode, and I always feel like one is stronger than the other. This one, they actually managed to pull off 2 very strong stories in one episode. The first story is set in the 70s, and it follows a monster kid who is obsessed with comic books and Aurora models and famous monsters of filmland, who recently lost his mom to cancer, and he has to move in with his abusive uncle. And it's kind of what befalls that scenario. But they have a lot of Universal monsters homages in it, which is great. There's a Frankenstein, there's a Gill Man, there's a mummy. Just all really lovingly done in practical effects in a way that evokes like the old Aurora models very well. And then the second story is, I don't say too much about it, but it's oddly a spinoff of the Evil Dead movie franchise. I don't even know how they pulled it off, or because it's picture like a 20-minute Evil Dead movie, but replace Ash with Bob Ross, like the painter guy from public television, and it's hilarious. So that's on Shudder now. So if you don't have Shudder, worth watching. Finally, my late night thing that I've been watching a lot lately, they've just put up a remastered version of Superman the animated series on HBO Max, and I had forgotten how much I love the Batman the animated series. Everybody does, but I had forgotten how good the Superman was as well. And I just watched the Mr. Mxyzptlk episode last night, and man, that episode is so freaking funny, and the writing is just so good. And I love me a well done Superman story, and this show has a lot of them. So if you enjoyed the Justice League movie that just came out and you want more Superman, watch this. If you didn't enjoy it, you could watch this, and it's a good palate cleanser. Either way, you're a winner. Anyway, that's where I've been at the last few weeks.
That's wonderful. I love that Superman animated series, by the way. It's so clever and so sincere. It's a really good. It really captures Superman quite well. And
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So all I want to mention is that if you're listening to this around the 2nd of April or around there, now until the end of the 4th of April, so now till midnight, on the 5th of April, I suppose, whatever, till the end of the 4th of April, we're running a thing where Sherry Dracula, which is the Monster Kid Detective Squad Book 2, is free on Kindle. So Castlebridge Media, of which I am the publisher, we have a new trio of children's books where the main characters are young detectives based on classic monsters. So there's a Frankenstein girl, and there's this girl called Sherry Dracula, who is essentially a superhero. Anyway, it's called Sherry Dracula in the Case of the Lunchroom Phantom, and it's free on Kindle. So you can go and grab it and download it, and I totally recommend that you do. And let me know what you think, because we've wanted to get into doing some children's books. So we've launched these 3 together, so that if you like one, you can get the other 2. And I'd love to hear what people think. So check that out. Also, I've been hearing really neat things about people enjoying the Castle of Horror book. Just really, I do. I get, comments on Twitter and emails and stuff where people go, especially the Embrace of the Vampire chapter.
I told you.
Which is
Told you it was going to be
hilarious.
hilarious.
Yes.
I was like,
So,
when I said that was my movie, you guys were like, what? And I'm like, no, it's hilarious. You trust me.
yes. So so definitely check that out if you haven't yet. And that's all the endorsements I'll do. And both of those endorsements are things that we produce. So maybe that's log rolling, but what are you gonna do? This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to. We're going to get into some more giant monster stuff in the next couple of weeks. I think maybe most of it Kong related, but I don't know. That's I'm letting you guys kind of choose what we're going to do. I've really enjoyed this. I was sad to be away, and I'm glad to be back. So,
well, we're glad that you are back.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you are back
Drew
as well.
did a great job as a host. So I just want to say
I heard.
I can't replace the king.
you are your own person, Drew. No replacing.
I'm technically several people, but you only have to deal with one on the podcast.
Yeah, well, for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Everybody be safe and get your vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Night, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Bye.
Night.
Night.